up, man? This is Harry Judd for Boxing Social in association with Betfred. I'm delighted to be joined by Joe Gallagher. The fight is off. We got the announcement, I think, just after 4 that the Conor Benn-Eubank fight is off. The right decision was made in the end, but Joe, let me just get your initial reaction, mate.
Yeah, I think that was the right thing to do. No one wants to have any type of unfair advantage. I think going into this, I think there was, I've said it earlier, even before this has come out, I think the weight that they're asking Eubank Jr. to make, a weight that he never made before in his professional career, and having that rehydration clause of what it was putting a fighter seriously at risk. And looking at both fathers, Eubank with Watson and Nigel with Gerald McClellan, that type of stuff, it's like, not that too sure about that. And then obviously you have Conor Benn testing positive with the VADA testing. Listen, they can dress it up all the want is being found positive with sample A. Sample B isn't that far away, and I'm sure, as we all know, it's the same thing. But we'll wait to see. But when that start comes in, it becomes like murky water, doesn't it? And the risk was too great. And the fact that people were lodging or had huge energy the last 24 hours to try and get this done. There was talks of a different 3 nations that were willing to license the event to try and get it done, and lobbying the board. It's like, okay, the money and everything else is taking precedent here instead of the safety and well-being of a fighter. We've all seen social media. It can be so cruel at times. And some content of their event going out there talking how well VADA is. It's the best in the business. And that's it. And the 2 fighters signed up to that. So you can't say now, well, let's ignore VADA and let's go UCAD. They signed up to it and he tested positive. And I see lots of people saying, oh, yeah, but if it would have been Eubank, there would have been all that. Listen, at the end of the day, it's a hard sport as it is. And we're in a sport with a license to kill, really, in some aspects. And if you imagine, I think that may be the case in the end, that you see the BBC dropped it last night, the show. Just the fact that if this was to go ahead, because no one knows what's going to happen in boxing, and something did happen, can you imagine everybody that was involved with that, the British Board of Control, Eddie Hearn, Wasserman, getting sued? You can't just be that ignorant to it when, if you sit back in the cold light of day in a few weeks' time, people almost will think, why on earth were there still a possibility? All the red flags were there. You've got someone coming underweight. You've got someone there that's been positive. What were you trying to do to Eubank Jr.? Do you understand? You're bringing him really weight. You're coming in. So it's, it was the right decision to make. And that was it. The one thing that I would query is, it's just knowing that they said VADA, he was tested positive, but UCAD, he was clean. But when was the time scale? When was the time scale of both tests? We know VADA was the end of August, but when was the UCAD ones? Because everyone knows a couple of weeks or so, from what I've been told or been led to believe, that can be gone out your system. So we'll just have to see.
I'll have to backtrack you on those, the comments. Just, I think a lot of reports were coming out in terms of the Matchroom team trying to go with a different commission. Eddie Hearn came out in a press conference only a moment ago and cleared up that those rumours or reports from journalists were false, that they were not going with any different commission. But that being said, though, I think a lot of points you touched on there. How was this handled when the announcement came out? Because they knew, reports are saying they knew before the Daily Mail released their article, but how was it handled by both teams?
Well, I said it some today. What if the Daily Mail hadn't reported it? What if the Daily Mail hadn't reported it? And we're in the month of October. This happened in August. I'm not sure when they knew about it, but I've read somewhere that they knew early on in September. Both camps, both promoters have all spoke about it, have all worked their way around it. And if it was to come out, a bit like the Dylan White situation, it's too late. let's crack on with it. You got to remember, Dylan White's was done on a Saturday morning, a meeting with Sky and everything else, wasn't it? And it went ahead, and I just thought, oh my God, they've got to do that again, which wouldn't be fair. And listen, Eubank Jr. obviously wants to fight. It's a payday, and he wants to go in there and show everyone what he really thought, that they'd only need 60% to beat him. For Conor Benn, it's once that mud has been flung, it sticks, doesn't it? And no matter, it's very much like in sport, whether you think about Ben Johnson, Olympics, think of a cheat straight away. Do you understand? It's like sticks, doesn't it? And Conor Benn, because of the magnitude of this, how it's become now, is but is he juiced up? Is he juiced up? And no matter when they reschedule it and move on, the questions have got to be there, and they'll be asked to do VADA next time. I'm sure Eubank Jr. will ask for VADA next time, but it'll always, you try to get away with that, and you've all kept it quiet, and that it's hard to shake that off, isn't it?
At the moment in time, Conor is not suspended by the British Border Control. What happens now?
Well, listen, there's obviously the B sample. That's what I think everyone will be waiting on. And it doesn't matter whether it's UCAD, you're clean, or VADA. Like I said, the time frame between the test and being just to know. But basically, dress it up any way. You've took a drug test that you signed up to, and something's come back, and you've tested positive, so you failed. So either you get banned, like it seems to be common. A lot of fighters, we've seen Canelo suspended. It was only for 6 months. And others, there's a fighter, I can't think of the top of his name, Cameron, I think. He got suspended, I think it was for 3 or 4 years for cocaine abuse. And his license and his career half damaged. Yet Conor Benn has got to get tested positive, as a Dylan White. And did Dylan White get any repercussions from it or anything? I don't think he did he? No, so Conor Benn. So the board can't sit there and go, well, we're ignoring it because it wasn't with UCAD. Listen, you signed up to be tested by VADA. You can't just ignore it now because it suits. And Eddie Hearn, as we've seen what's going around on social media, says they're the best in the business. And this is after him. I think that we've seen the online back and forth with him and Lou DiBella with the Pascal and Boatsa situation. So, there has to be some repercussions. I can't say I feel sorry for Conor Benn if he knowingly took it. But I do feel the board have to start making an example for fighters here in the UK. If you sign up, and this is it, so whether you get banned for 2 years, 1 year, whatever, but you can't just ignore it and go, well, it wasn't UCAD, so it don't matter. So what's the point of signing up to VADA? He's been caught, and there needs to be a repercussion of some sort.
Has it opened up a load of other issues within box? I mean, why don't we have one regulatory body that we all go to for drug testing? Why was it that you can recognise it but VADA don't? Or where can we move from this?
It's a very good question. It'd be good if all of them did get together, but I think because of so many, but VADA seems to be the main one. When you look at all the big fights, everyone signs up to VADA. All the big fights, all the world title fights is VADA. So I don't see the problem. We've signed up VADA, and these two fighters did sign up with VADA, but obviously it's come back the way it has on the first sample anyway. But we'll have to say on the B sample. But I agree with you. Why should UCADs be a weaker because they don't look into the testing as thorough as what VADA do? So what's the point of having that testing then? Ain't worth the pot you're pissing, is it? So you might as well just... It's not at all, is it? So what you sign up for, it's like a Mickey Mouse tester then, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So if you want to have testing and you're serious about it, we've had the testing, it's the best, and that's what it should be. No point having a UCAD one, a watered down version, because what's the point? So I think either UCAD or WADA or they'll up the game, and I think VADA is the one that everyone, and like I say, Eddie and everyone within sport knows it is the premier drug testing.
How much do you feel, because this obviously this is the main events, the big one, the big fight we all want to see, but in terms of the undercard, how much do you feel for them?
I do. I feel for them. Listen, you just seen what happened with it was unfortunate, obviously, with the Queen passing away, but that big old women's card in London, and you had Michaela Meyer, Baumardner, Clarissa Shields, Savannah Marshall, all trained, all the girls on it. And it was unfortunate the Queen passing away, and they had to go back to America, and they've got to go back, get motivated, and come again. So it's hard for them. It's not like the first people have experienced, but it is hard. You do feel for them. And like we said before, the trainers and everything else, is, listen, there's most of the fighters on that bill there that most we could think about. And how much we are saying, well, listen, we've got to sue Conor Benn. He's lost me a living. He's lost me some career money. Do you understand? The Eubank Jr. may be getting legal advice and going, well, I'm not assuming I've lost all the money. The zone, and most of us thinking, what have we got to do with this? So fighters are on that bill. There is that side of it, but you know, and I know it needs big money to sign that. And the people that are on the card, no disrespect to anyone, I don't think they'd be on the money to win them type of cases, but they've lost a payday. Is the undercard off? Is the show completely off?
Yeah, it's completely gone. The whole show.
Wow. I wasn't aware of that. I knew the main fight was, well, I'm usually disappointed for them, and it was an event, and they need some compensation of some sort. And this is the thing with boxing, it's such a hard sport, such a brutal sport, and it's such a hard sport that the fighters who are the main piece in the jigsaw are always treated, I won't say the worst, but not thought of as much. For all them now that have put 10 weeks training in, Christmas is coming, the cost of living are rising. When are these fights have got to go again? They've paid for training camps, they've paid for S&Cs, they've paid for meal prep people, everything, and they're out of pocket. Now, the companies will say they're out of pocket, promoters will say they're out of pocket, everyone's out of pocket. The fighters should have some type of compensation for this, and I feel bad for them, but I'm sure that there's some big dates coming up, and I'm sure, hopefully, the card that is scheduled and was scheduled for Saturday remains the same card scheduled going down the line, and people who were on that undercard don't get palmed off somewhere else. Do you know what I mean? And the show stays as it is, but just in another date or a venue. But I can't see that now. I do feel there'll be some punishment towards Conor Benn.
Well, to my knowledge, obviously he's not suspended at the moment. There will be a hearing. Hopefully after that we'll know more information. But how much does the sport or people involved need clarity in terms of what's gone on? How did this fertility drug end up in Conor Benn's system? Surely we need, out of everything, some clarity.
Yeah, I say social media, it's a shocking place when people saying that it took the missus's morning after pill or something like that. It's just terrible. But them questions have to be asked, and I'm sure Conor Benn, he'll have his hearing with the British Board of Control. But it's down to the British Board of Control to say, well, listen, we acknowledge VADA testing in this country. You cannot ignore it. It's the premier VADA testing. How can you not have it? You can't just say, well, we're doing it, but you can't punish. What's the point of doing it? So the British Board of Control do now need to start acknowledging VADA testing in this country. That's a big step forward. Can't just ignore it and pretend it hasn't happened. It's a fighter licensed by the British Board of Control that has been found positive on a sample A. You just can't ignore that just because it's a different company you don't work with. It's there for all the world to see, and all the world will be looking in on now how they handle this.
You mentioned the history with the families in terms of previous fights and things like that, but hypothetically, how much would the integrity of the sport been tarnished if this fight was to go ahead as it was meant to be going ahead this morning?
Yeah, that's well, like I say, I've always said for a while, boxing's beginning to lose its authenticity, its integrity, its soul. And if that was to allowed to go ahead, we'd be thinking in a few years' time, wow, so that fighter came underweight. The other fighter was caught with VADA and was allowed to fight. Who on earth allowed that happen? And where you're breaking the dam for all sorts to go on there if that had gone on this weekend. And the British Board of Control, I feel I've done the right thing, and I've kept their name as a good organisation with putting the boxers' safety at first, and that's what's first and paramount in this situation, that the boxer's health and well-being comes first.
I think one of the big things was we were all so surprised. I think many people are massive fans of Conor Benn. It's such an exciting fighter. So when this came out yesterday, I think that we were just completely shocked. And again, he hasn't been suspended, and there will be a hearing, and there is sample B to test. I know you mentioned, like many people, that sample B is basically sample A but in a different container. So 99.9% it probably will be the same outcome. But where does Conor Benn go to get his name clean again? Where does he go from here?
He can't get it named. It's always got to stick with him, isn't it? Unless that sample B comes back. But it doesn't matter. There's a test being done. It's tested positive. I don't know. It's hard. I see. Was it Chris Algieri or Chris Van Heerden, whoever it was that he fought recently? Even he came out and said, "I've never been dropped or stopped or whatever in my career." And he sort of like put question marks on a post out as well about it. So all them type of things, and fighters in the past will be start thinking, well, was he on it with me? Was he on it with me? And there'll be a lot of questions. There'll be a lot of finger pointing going on. But it's down to Conor Benn and his team to deal what's coming his way, whether they did it on purpose or not. There's got to be some flat coming his way, and then they've got to deal with the consequences. And like I say, I feel sorry for Tony Sims. He's got a very good stable down there, and all of a sudden his stable will be starting getting questioned at as well. Do you understand? I see people putting posts about Felix Cash and other people and stuff like that, and all of a sudden everyone's getting accused. And I feel sorry for Tony Sims. Tony Sims is a great coach, and I'm sure Tony Sims isn't there handing pills out or whatever. I'd be very surprised. Do you know what I mean? But it's all that type of things. We've seen it in the past with other fighters and the trainers, and everything else gets accusations of flying left, right, and centre. So everyone will be in that stable looking out there fighting to clear their name of whatever accusations come their way.
Obviously, there's a lot of discussion, a lot of eyes in the terms of Matchroom's handling of this. But have you got to look at Wasserman as well and their handling, if as known about this? I mean, they mentioned both men agreed that they would fight anyway, obviously with the amount of money involved. But have you got to lay some eyes on Wasserman for potentially letting this happen?
Well, what I would say is, once I'd heard that, if I was Calla, once I'd heard that and there was that, then why would you turn around and say to Eubank Jr., listen, you can still fight if you go ahead? You're supposed to be there, the promoter, and you're looking after the safety and the welfare of your fighter. I understand the fighter. Not many fighters tell the promoter what to do. So you got Tyson Fury, I'm going to say, tells Frank Warren what to do, but he has a big say. Anthony Joshua tells most older the fighters. It's the promoters telling them. But Eubank Jr. is in a position where he has, it seems to be, said to Calla, I don't care, we're going ahead with it. It's at that point where Calla has to go, Chris, I'm saying you now, this isn't happening, and stand up. Do you know what I mean? Right's right and wrong's wrong. And his role as a promoter is to promote the fight, but it's also on the other side of it is to turn around and go, this isn't good. We need to step away from this. We've got nothing to be ashamed of. We've done nothing wrong here, and we're packing up and going home. Leave the problem with the other promoter and their fighter. Does that make sense? And I feel him. But let's say Eubank Jr., we don't know how driven Eubank Jr. said, no, I want to do this. But the fighter wants to. He's done all the training. He sees the jackpot. He sees the money. He's fighting someone lighter than him. He thinks he can beat him with 60%. He thinks he can beat him just abstaining from sex for 2 weeks. That's it. But sometimes fighters can be a little bit too brave for themselves. Mm. And when it comes to this, when there's a fighter with a banned substance found, Calla should have said, no, it's done. And I'm not tolerating no negotiations, Eddie. This is for you to sort out, you and your fighter.
What's the biggest thing? I know there's many things or many avenues to take this, but what's the biggest thing that maybe you've learned from this whole situation?
The fact that it got till there at 4 o'clock on a Thursday, to the fact that the point that it's only at that point that they called it off, when there's fighters on the undercard that are making weight, starving themselves, and they're all caught up in it and not knowing whether they're fighting or not. As soon as this was found out, the show should have been cancelled straight away. I will say, and it's not me being finesse, but there was a lot of energy put into trying to keep this fight going the last 48 hours.
Yeah, we've touched on loads of points in terms of Eubank, Ben, but some other news within boxing. A very exciting night tomorrow for your stable in Bolton. Sean actually coming back after second round stoppage last out. Yeah, terrific night for your blokes tomorrow night in Bolton. We'll go through a few of those fights.
Yeah, no problem. I say Sean Yaxley, he's out again. He was out a couple of weeks ago. We've got him out again. It's his second fight of the new season. It's mad, isn't it? Boxing's all year round, but we still revert back to the old season. So, yeah, he's out again. Look to get him out. McGowan lost to Sergio Martinez at the beginning of the year. He fought a couple of weeks ago, had a good win. He's out again tomorrow night. And then after this fight, I'm looking at the pair of them pushing on and also challenging for Celtic, English, Central Area, that type of thing for McCauley, and also for Sean, Celtic, or beginning to make headway towards some type of British title. So them two are on. Jose Burton is back, bless him. He's back in new weight division, cruiserweight. He's a good kid over. Everyone could see he was weight drained when he fought Dan Aziz, taking nothing away from Dan Aziz. He had to beat what was in front of him, and full credit to him. But hopefully wants another go at cruiserweight. So we get him out tomorrow night, get him a fight, get him a win, and get him ranked, and let's get him in that cruiserweight picture, which is a very healthy one in Britain. And then also Clark Smith. Clark had a great win on his pro debut a couple of weeks ago in Liverpool, and then Sasha Jonas undercard. So from the fire flames, ring walks, and sky and all that, he's back to grassroots tomorrow night, small hall, and he'll have an idea of what it's all about. Come through that safely tomorrow night, and he'll be out on the Sasha Jonas undercard in Manchester in 5 weeks' time. So it's a busy night for all four of them, but it's good. What I call doing building blocks for them at the beginning of the season, ready for them to push on and make moves towards the end of the year, and also for the beginning of next year as well.
How important are those? Again, these small hall shows. We saw a fantastic one on Friday night in York. There was a fantastic small hall show there, but how good are those shows for Clark Smith to get more experience within the pro game?
Yeah, 100%. He's got to know what it's all about. He's been to a few small hall shows, watching fighters. He was at the last one before he fought with Sean and McCauley, and that, so he understands what he has to do. But like I said to him, you can't be just hanging around for TV all the time. When you're a professional, you've got to be busy and regular and often, and be fighting 7-8 times a year. And this is what we want to do with Clark. And like anything, like when they were amateurs, they were kept busy. And when you're elite amateurs and you're on that GB setup or podium setup, you're fighting the best in the world every month or so, whatever. So your tools are being sharpened. And that's what it's not point being a good amateur and then turning pro and fighting once every 4 months. The tools got to get blunt. You see all the kids turn, and they all have 6 to 8 fights a year for the first 2 or 3 years, and then they're ready to make the move. So that's what I want to do with Clark. And he's a big future. He's got a big future, but like I say, he'll be different. He's done loads of tickets again, big ticket seller.
Really?
And he really is, Clark. He really is. So really pleased about that. Kieran's pleased about that.
Yeah.
So it's good to have that type of following so early on in his career.
Yeah, I bet Kieran is really glad, because it's the probably the promoter of this event as well. But yeah, touch on Sean Yaxley as well. It was a great performance last out. That terrific body shot was emphatic, Joe.
Yeah, it was a murderous body punch. It was and I said to Sean afterwards, if that was filmed, that had been like the top 10, 20 knockouts of the year. The way that you delivered it, the way that you set up, the sound it made when it landed, the effect the opponent had rolling around on the floor, and he was rolling around on the floor well past a minute before he could get by. Then he had oxygen and everything else was beautifully placed. So that's given him a lot of confidence to begin to physically develop. He's been in the gym a while now. He's been having good sparring with Mark Heffron, Marcus Morrison, McCauley McGowan, Clark Smith. So there's a good little hub of 4 or 5 fighters all pushing each other on there, and he's beginning to learn. He was there watching Natasha win a world title, and he's been in and around that now. The time won't be that far away before he makes his move, and he'll be well equipped when the moment comes.
In terms, you touched on Jose as well, back on this weight as well. I mean, his last fight unfortunately didn't take place, but how good is it to have him back out, back in the frame?
Yeah, no, he's he's a huge character in the gymnasium, Ulfi. And when he lost to Dan Aziz, he said, right, that's it. I'm going away and I'm going to eat as much as I want. And he said, I'm going to eat some 16 or 17 stone, he said he was. And he did. And then in February, he said, right, I'm 16 stone and coming back. So, right, all right then. And listen, he's back at cruiserweight and gets this fight out of the way. And then he'll be involved in another fight before the end of the year. And listen, he's sparred cruiserweights in the past. He's fought cruiserweights in the past. So we're going to see how it goes. The British title opportunity with Dan Aziz was there. It was a fight before Christmas. There was good money in it. So it was very hard for him to walk away from that, to go, right, I'm starting as a cruiserweight back on 6-8 rounders and small hall. So he had to run with it. And that was it. But listen, here we are. And we'll soon see now over the next couple of fights whether the cruiserweight division is his division. But he's happy today. And he's in good spirits and he's looking forward to it.
Fantastic. Well, Joe, again, thank you so much for your time, mate. We really appreciate it. And we'll talk very soon, mate.